On this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast, meth fairies.
And the truth is in there. Let's do this. Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
I'm Liz. Still trapped in my childhood bedroom. So what episode is this? What are we doing?
Season 6, Episode 9. Clap your hands if you believe.
Clap, clap, clap. We're going to clap back.
And what's that? You can't even tell I'm doing the beat, but that's that. Now clap your hands.
Okay, I'm with you now. I'm with you. Yep.
Anyways, I was trying to do it without clapping really loud in the microphone.
Which everyone would have loved. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was thinking of all of your ears. So yeah, what are you up to, Liz?
Well, in news of the kitty litter, we have finally achieved success, and one of the 3 chonkers has used the robot litter box. Woo-hoo. She jumped in. She was rewarded with a treat. She seemed very excited. I was very excited. I know I've seen the kitty litter box do like a cycle, but I didn't check to see if it actually tracks like which cat's in there by weight. So like I can tell like which ones, But I mean, like I also just want to see how much these cats weigh. Because I know it's like 15 pounds. Like it's something like.
I had a 17-pound cat at one point in time. It's wild.
Yeah, so that is my most exciting news. And also, since I'm still in San Antonio and the world is amazing here, I was at HEB and I bought this reversing candle because you can just buy spells at the grocery store in San Antonio because it's great.
You can antidote Cliff for the record.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got some cheese curds and like, some pretty like tasty snacks and some like nice Icelandic yogurt, but also this candle, which will reverse something. It actually doesn't say what it does. It just says it's mysticas, right? So we know that's mystical. Allegro, which is fast, right? That means fast. And then there's a picture of like a cross, an evil eye. I'm not sure what that symbol is doing. Is that like shooting something? I think that may be a gun, but it is a double action candle. We also have an eye down here that's doing something. So we're going to burn this during this episode. I mean, honestly, like the warning is just like, don't burn down your house. Don't put in your stuff that catches fire. And that it was
no magic warnings.
Yeah. And that it was made in Nuevo Leon. Like, there is a fun, like, don't run with the candle sign. Although they look like there's like a little girl with pigtails. I think that looks like don't kick the candle. I'm pretty sure. So if you're listening to the audio version, I'm showing pictures of very strange warning signs on my candle. So we're just going to burn my reversible black red.
Those are all about intent. You have to.
I'm just thinking this is going to reverse my luck, but would it be really great if this like is a Freaky Friday candle, and I like the reversing like reverses me and Diana, and then like I had to live a week in Diana's shoes, and she's about to tell you what her shoes are like, and she knows how gross my shoes are right now, and neither of us want each other's shoes.
No. There are times in our lives it might be funny. This is not one of them.
All right, so the candle is lit. So if we Freaky Friday, that we'll let you know. So what's going on with
you? In big music news in the city of Dallas, Texas, the legendary Longhorn Ballroom is reopening this week. That's kind of a big deal.
That's kind of a big deal. Why is it a big deal?
It's because the company I work for is the one reopening it. But it's a historic ballroom dating
You
back to
could say
1950.
that with more pride. Why do you go so quiet? You're just like, oh, the company I work for is kind of like,
Yeah,
say that shit out loud. What's wrong with
so
you?
my company has been behind the renovation and reopening of Longhorn Ballroom. So it's in addition to other music venues that we operate, it's a big deal for us. It's a super big deal for music history, not only in Texas but arguably nationally. But definitely in Dallas.
Globally. I mean, once you put the Sex Pistols in there, then you've crossed the Atlantic, and we're just all around. It's a globally important landmark that is haunted and filled with raccoons.
It was once identified by Texas Monthly as Texas' most historic music venue. So that's not my quote. I didn't make it up. That's an actual magazine quote. But anyway, so it's been really exciting and really cool. It's also super stressful but exciting. We had live music and people in the room already for a really last minute soft opening kind of night, like sneak peek. And so by the time this y'all are listening to this podcast, we will be officially open and having our first concerts. Since there has not been a concert in that building since 2019 currently. So
that the Ghosts have totally been having concerts in there. They have just ghost concerts all the time, and I'm sure it's swinging.
Yeah.
And there are no longer raccoons in there, just in case you're an inspector listening to this.
There are not.
The raccoons have been evicted. They have moved on to new homes.
Yes, definitely. Like, I'm assure you we passed a health inspection.
There's no, sadly. Although, like, I would be very excited if there were. They had little tiny cowboy hats. So
I know there was a deep discussion about this. There's names, cowboy hats needed, like a whole thing.
Maybe we can at least find some taxi,
move on.
But maybe our next taxidermied raccoon will find one a little cowboy hat and a little Longhorn shirt, and
a bunch of them in the stockyards in Fort Worth.
Which is definitely haunted. And that's just not me saying that. That shit's haunted. That shit is haunted AF.
Aren't they doing like a haunted tour in the stockyards?
They're doing them now, yeah, because I've been wanting to take... Oh, and you can also stay at Miss Molly's, which is like not only a haunted hotel, it's a haunted brothel. So it's like haunted by ladies of the evening. Ooh, they're the best ghosts.
We should go I'll do a haunted tour in the stockyards. I just don't want to stay at the haunted brothel. Is that a trade-off? Fair trade-off?
Fine. Yes, we can do that.
But anyways, so my life has been consumed. That's why I've alluded to being real busy with work. But that's why. And it just means things are crazy.
But crazy is good.
It's good crazy. It's exciting.
It's exciting, yes. Hard work is paying off, hopefully.
Yes. And Liz sent me some beautiful flowers to celebrate it.
It's also...
And it's my birthday week.
And also...
Also, happy birthday to me. Yay. Here's a new music venue. That's the universe's gift to me.
You're like birthing it like a child on your birthday.
I am.
You're just like, and you'll always remember, like, when people when did you reopen the Longhorn? You're like, I can tell you.
I'll know the date off the top of my head because of that. But yeah, so no, it's pretty funny, but it's cool. So everybody's like, what are you doing to celebrate your birthday? I'm like, I'm going to be at the Longhorn Ballroom all weekend. I don't fucking know what you're talking about, but it's fine. It's good. It's just funny.
Yay.
So, yeah. So all my stalkers, I'm just kidding.
Once again,
don't worry, we have really good security.
We have security alarms and lots of dogs.
Yes.
And guns.
Yeah.
And we'll hunt you down and shame you.
But yeah, so yeah, that's been most of my life lately. All of my life, last couple weeks especially. So yeah. Do you want to talk about this episode?
I do. I'm very excited about this episode. It's a wonderful, joyous, happy, not a bummer. We're definitely after last week's venture into bullshit, we're just going to pretend the episode did not happen and move on. Okay, so this is Clap Your Hands If You Believe, which, if you are not familiar with, is a reference to Peter Pan, in which, Peter asked the children to clap their hands if they believe in fairies because Tinker Bell was dying. God, was so fucking sad. It's just messed up. Like, oh, all right, so this fairy's dying. Clap your hands, and if you don't, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
All right, little kids. So we're in season 6, episode 9. This first aired November 19th, 2010. Was directed by John F. Showalter, who we last saw in 2.5 Men and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Plaid? Oh my God. Plaid. Oh, you can tell Liz saw some of her relatives this weekend. She just said plaid.
That was
amazing. Pat down there. You go pat down there, hillbilly. All right. And it was written by Ben Edlund. And so we start off with this, what is this opening in Elwood, Indiana? What's happening?
We've got a cornfield in Elwood, Indiana, with some teens making out on a blanket, which always looked wildly uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable and will end poorly because you can't make out. Also, cornfield. No, thank you. They're all creepy as fuck. I don't understand, what's sexy about them. And, then Patrick sees lights in the cornfield and that's where snakes are.
Yeah. He's like, there's something out in the corn.
It's a snake. Don't go in there. It's a snake.
And she's like, nah, don't go out there. But he's like, nope, I'm going to go look for it. So she follows him because, and he finds a clearing. Oh, this is where I got really excited. So excited. And then he's in this clearing and there's a bright light and the Patrick disappears and they zoom out and it's a crop circle.
Yes. It's a bigger crop circle. It's a crop circle in a bigger crop circle.
It was a small piece of a giant crop circle arrangement. It was awesome. And then we get this sick-ass opening to this episode.
If you haven't figured out, Diana likes X-Files a lot.
I like X-Files, and I was just really into, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, what examples of things. I remember watching Close Encounters of a Third Kind when I was, young.
Yeah, and also you loved Art Bell. We've already mentioned Art Bell once.
Yeah. So I was, full on would stay up late to listen to Art Bell back in the day. So,
because you had to.
I love
That's how you had to listen to Art Bell.
Well, yeah.
And all the people who called in. I miss it. It's not the same anymore.
So, anyways, then we get this badass intro where it's a stylized version of Supernatural intro, but it's like X-Files.
It's lovely.
And then instead of the truth is out there, it says the truth is in there.
In there.
All right. So we open this episode really now with, looks like one-on-one. We're getting a monologue, interview responses direct to the camera. First person, I guess is the word then. Of people talking about how they feel about extraterrestrials, because apparently now Elwood, Indiana is considered a hotbed of extraterrestrial activity. And we get an interview with Wayne Whitaker Jr. kicking off, and he records interviews with people who have seen strange lights in the sky, and just kind of tries to document what they've seen. We get a super hippie chick who just wants to welcome the extraterrestrials. We've got a cop saying yeah, everybody's really talking about all these extraterrestrials, but we've got 4 missing person right now, for real. And I don't think it's UFOs. And then we've got Patrick's girlfriend that followed him into the woods. And she's just very upset that he's missing and got abducted. And then we get an older woman who says it's fairies. It's not aliens.
And in between there, though, we get mentioned one of my favorite terms, which is a UFO flap. Oh. And do you know what a UFO flap is? If you listen,
I do not.
Okay, so this was a term that originated in the 40s and 50s when there was a sighting of UFOs, aka unidentified flying objects, and it refers to a period of time where there is an increased activity of UFOs in. I forgot what they're calling them now. There's a new word for it. Damn it, ufologists. I know you have a new word. But basically, a flap is birds, a flock of birds and stuff. So ever since then, each of the...
So it's a cluster of sightings.
It's a cluster of UFO sightings. So last podcast on the left just did something about the double flap, which was not only a cluster of aliens, but also a cluster of Bigfoot, Sasquatches. I don't know what the plural is, but I just also love the term flap. Also, some of that was written by ChatGPT. Diana gets this look at her face every time I bring up AI, and I kind of love it.
Well, you can just file that in the same category that you have the all the fanfic stuff that makes me uncomfortable in.
Like incest? What? So Sam's like kind of mean.
Yeah, so they're the ones conducting these interviews. Yeah. It kind of like finally after we see all these interviews, it was actually shot, really put together, kind of cool, I thought, where you're seeing these interviews with all these individuals, and then we find out the whole reason that these interviews are taking place is that the brothers are interviewing these people. I thought it was a cool way to kind of come around to it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. But yeah, Soulless Sam's dick.
He's hot. But he is insulting the cat ladies. And Dean's just like, dude. Empathy.
I did like add some glitter to the glue you're sniffing was pretty funny. But
he's fucking hilarious. I love him. We'll get more into why I love Soulless Sam later. But
so yeah, Dean's reminding him to be empathetic, and he's like, look, way back before you would have like given her your puppy dog I said doe eyes, but look, you'd have to care. And Sam's like, wait, I thought you want to be honest, so you're asking me to fake it? And he's like, yeah, just fake it. Thanks. You want to be a real boy? Do you want to be a real boy, Pinocchio? Fake it. And Dean's going to be his Jiminy Cricket.
He is. He's going to be Sam's puppet master of puppets. But Sam says, like, look, man, I have been faking it, and it's exhausting. And I know, man, like, as someone who has faked being, normal in many situations and just pretending like I don't want to talk about weird shit like this show. Like, I get it. Like, it's hard not being yourself, Sam. I understand. And if, yourself is a emotionally unavailable guy who's kind of witty and it's pretty hot. Okay. So we cut to a watch shop.
Yes. And it's Brennan's Watchworks. And they want to talk to Mr. Brennan about Patrick, the boy who disappeared. And basically they get to, so Sam and Dean are there. They're talking to the dad, and they're pretending to be press. And he's like, yeah, my son was the first to be taken. But he's real vague, but like he's kind of evasive, but also like kind of trying to answer stuff. It's kind of a weird vibe, super weird vibe. Because he's just positive that his son's not coming back. And they're like, well, that's fucking weird. Why are you so sure about that? Then he goes true crime on you, Liz. And he goes, after the first 72 hours, it's, pretty hard to find a missing person.
And we know it's a 48. There's TV shows dedicated to the shit. Get with it, Mr. Brennan. But
yeah, 72 is very generous. But then they leave. So our brothers leave. And we stay zoomed in on Mr. Brennan because he is talking to a watch. That's weird.
Not weird.
He asks if it's all right, and the watch turns, like rotates.
I mean, maybe just the watch talks. I mean, it could be a smartwatch.
A very smart watch.
It's a really smart watch.
Yeah. So they're leaving, and Dean's like, yeah, he's hiding something. Why don't you keep an eye here? Just don't make any judgment calls or do anything. Just keep an eye out and call me if something happens while I go look at these crop circles. And by the time he gets to the crop circles, it's already dark out. The time of day in this episode is very weird. It makes very little sense. I'm just going to call that out.
Some of it is on purpose, right? Because we're shifting. Time will shift because of the fairies. But yeah, no, all of a sudden we're dark and you're in a cornfield. How the fuck did you find the crop circle in a cornfield? Have you ever tried to find anything in a cornfield in the middle of the night, sir? I don't think you have. Because it looks the same. Everything. Fucking row of corn looks the goddamn same. Like, you can't see it. Like, there isn't, like, a flashlight coming down being like, corn circles here. Like,
yeah, so Dean finds the crop circle. He's in the middle. His phone rings and it's Sam. And Sam's like, the only thing this guy's up to is alcoholism, which is a funny line coming from Sam.
Pot, kettle, yeah. Because you're also drinking right along with him.
But then there's a bright light over Dean, which is probably not great right now since he's in the crop circle. And he's yelling, like, really funny, like, the single words to Dean as he tries running from whatever is chasing him with this bright light. Like, UFO! Close encounter. And Sam just has fucking snarky responses about the fourth kind of close encounter being a butt thing.
Okay, so I actually did not know this until like I looked it up. That's an actual scale. Did you know that? Like that is an actual scale of things. Okay, so a close encounter is an event in which a person, sees an unidentified flying object.
Right.
Or, a UTI or whatever they're calling it now. And so like
urinary tract infection.
I don't know. I don't know what it's called. I know it's something different. It could be a UTI. Who knows? I've heard that word a lot lately. So the scaling of these encounters come from the first UFO researcher, J. Allen Hynek's book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry. And there's 6 on the scale, and they're all kind of like rated by how close you are to the aliens. So 1 through 3 are kind of looped together, and that's like the first one is you just see like you see lights. The second one is like discs, so that's usually like if you see UFOs in the daytime, like in like the oval shapes. The third one is radar confirmation, right? So then someone can see a beep 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 boop, and so that's the third one. So, but when you get to close encounters of the first kind, that is a visual sighting of a UFO less than like 500 feet or 150 meters for those of you who get to use a metric system away. So close encounters of the second kind is a UFO event with a physical effect. So that could be like your radio fritzes out, right, or it leaves like a crop circle, right? So that's the second. And then the third kind is when there is an animated entity present. So anytime you see like an actual alien or like a robot or anything that came out of a ship, then that's the third kind.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where it stops.
So it wasn't just a random movie name. Noted.
It wasn't a random movie name. And the fourth kind could be butt stuff because he didn't go beyond the third kind. So, the fourth kind could be you're tied down to a table and getting probed.
Well, I will add here that we were talking about, we couldn't remember the new terminology. One of the new terminologies that is out currently, as we've been talking, it's actually been in the news a lot in the last, I'd say 3 to 6 months, about what the government is saying about unidentified flying objects, yes, but also UAP is the other term that's being used. It's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration uses it that means unidentified anomalous phenomena to describe observations of the sky. Observations of the sky that cannot be identified as aircraft or as known natural phenomena. There you go.
Phenomena.
Yeah.
So also it's very hard when I was writing about the flap to not be writing about the FAP. I had to, there a couple of times it was the great FAP. All right, and so Dean
where's Tom DeLonge when we need him? We just should have had him as a special guest on this.
We should have.
Thanks, Blink-182. In case you didn't know, Tom DeLonge's a UFO expert. You're welcome.
A ufologist, some would say. So Dean is running through the corn, which is scratchy. It's so scratchy.
And tries to remind Sam to have empathy, but Sam just orders another beer and Dean gets beamed up.
Yeah, and not only Sam ordering beer, he's also checking out his waitress's butt. So we're getting a lot of Dean's behavior like on Sam now.
Yeah.
But Dean was also taunting the light. So kind of, he kind of gets what he had coming. I don't know.
Okay. So we've got Sam calling Dean's phone to try to locate where Dean went. And he finds the phone laying on the ground in the middle of a crop circle. Oh, weird. And we do have in the background, as he approaches an RV park near the crop circles, it sounds like the music from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but just like it sounds slightly modified to me, but it was pretty funny.
The kind so we don't have, they're modified enough so we don't have to pay a copyright?
Probably. So we've got this RV park full of UFO hunters and believers with Christmas lights strung, lights, telescopes, their own UFO versions of murder walls, the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was also in weird, we live in a simulation land. Right by where I'm currently staying, there is a food truck park that's called like Area 51 Food Truck Park. or maybe it's I don't know, like how maybe it's 512. I don't know. But so it looks like
Probably.
this. It really
That's
does
hilarious.
look like this. I'm like, oh, creepy.
That's funny. Yeah. And so Sam notices Wayne's there again, who we saw at the at the beginning of this episode. And Sam's like, hey, yeah, UFOs are real. And Wayne's like, yeah, like I said, the truth is out there. We got it out there. Got the quote. And Sam's like, hey, so how do you like get one of these like ETs, like since you hunt them? Because he's thinking that Wayne's like they are.
How do you hunt them? How do you hunt the ET?
And he's like flipping through this pamphlet and is just wildly disappointed. He's just like, my brother was abducted. And then the hippie chick that from the intro wanders off of her heavily decorated school bus and comes over asking if Sam's okay about his brother being abducted. And Sam replies that he's fine because he's had time to adjust.
He has. It's been hours.
It's been a half an hour. She asks if it was a childhood thing. He's like, no, it's been about a half hour. Anyways, so Sam turns back to mock Wayne for hunting ETs for 30 years and having no concrete data or leads. And basically you must just suck at hunting UFOs.
And it's
burn.
It burns, but it burns really good. Soulless Sam is the best Sam. So,
but our little hippie chick's gonna help Sam.
Oh, she's gonna help him, all right. Help him with something. And we're gonna cut back to our cornfield.
Yeah. And Dean gets dropped back in the middle of the crop circle, guns blazing.
And it's adorable. Like he just comes out, he's just like pew 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 pew.
It was really funny.
Actually, no, so he wasn't pew pew. He had like a knife. Like he had like one gun. He was stabbing.
One gun.
He's like stabbing.
Yeah, and so we know Dean's back, and so he goes to the motel room by himself because he's like, well, fuck, he's middle of the field by himself, and walks into this. This motel room is real weird with a lot of corn decor.
I mean, yeah, it's corn town. Lots of cornholes.
So weird. But Sam is currently banging hippie chick.
Yep, he sure is.
And the chick's just she's all over Sam. She's like, oh, they brought your brother back.
Yeah, but Sparrow also understands that Sam and Dean need time together as family.
Right. So she's gonna leave, but she asks Dean what it was like. And he says they were grabby, incandescent douchebags.
Ooh. And
Dean's pissed because he's mad at Sam for not even trying to look for him. He's like, I was abducted and you're just here banging patchouli. That's what he says.
And Sam was just like, hey man, I don't think she smelled that bad.
But then we figure out why Dean's really mad is to Dean, he's only been gone for like an hour. So he's like, what the fuck? I've been gone an hour and you didn't even like look for me? And Sam's like, no, you've been gone like all night. It's fucking 4 a.m.
But still, Sam, it's 4 a.m. He's been gone for like literally like not even a whole night. And you're already fucking Sparrow, the patchouli chick. And now you're going to smell like patchouli for a while. Oh man, your dick's gonna smell like patchouli. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So Sam tries to distract by being like, "Oh, it was a UFO time slip. Here, do some shots, Dean." It's basically his way of working around this.
But again, I also appreciate Soulless Sam is like, "Oh, you're having some problems? Have some whiskey." Sometimes that's the kind of love you need.
Sometimes, yes. So Dean's trying to explain where he was. It's like, look, it was bright white. It was, it was a different place. It's, these beings were too bright to look at and they were pulling me towards a table. And Sam's like, a probing table. And Dean is pissed about that. But apparently while they were pulling him, Dean went fucking crazy and started slashing and shooting at them. And he said he got the impression that no one's ever done that before. So they sent him back. He said, close encounter. I won it.
And now, like, I fought the lot, I won, but I had a close encounter, and I won. Yeah, and then Sam tells Dean that he should take a shower, but I'm like, really? Shouldn't
Sam take a shower? He's the one
Sam
that smells like
seems
patchouli.
grosser than Dean right now. Like, of all the people covered in gunk I'm worried about, it's you, Sam.
Right. So now it's the next morning. They're drinking coffee at the at Jack's Beer Garden. It's definitely a bar. There's a pool table, but they're sitting there drinking coffee. It was very weird.
It's a small town. Maybe it's just like, you know, you get your coffee there, then you like. I'm pretty sure there's a place I go to in my town that can do those things at. So
yeah. So, but it was just odd. So we've got Dean's just freaked out though because he's like, look, angels and aliens are both real. What's next? Hobbits. And we get Sam just being a creeper to the waitress. But Dean's like really mad about this, about Sam just being totally disconnected from everything. He's like, what am I supposed to do? You know, you were abducted. I had no leads. What am I to do? Sit in the dark? And Sam's like, yeah. Dean's like, yeah, you should feel the loss. You should sit in the dark and not have sex.
But Sam wants to know is like, can I do all that and have sex with a hippie chick? And I just, you know, it's such a dude thing to say, but it also like you feel, oh, you're so emotionally unavailable. Then, I love you. You're hot.
And then it comes around to, so having a soul equals suffering, and suffering is a good thing. Is what Sam has to ask Dean.
Yeah. Having a soul is bullshit, man. All right. So oddly now, like Dean wants to go do research.
Yeah. On UFO lore. But he sees some dude staring at him through the window. And some looks like might be a homeless gentleman, possibly.
Or a sailor. Like
it's
he
really
looks
weird
like
with his hot pink beanie.
Somebody
it's very
who
odd,
lives
the whole
in
thing.
Seattle. Like definitely like he's escaped from the Pacific Northwest to Indiana. We know that at least.
Yeah. So I think we've got, Sam's like just perplexed that he cannot see this at all, but also doesn't really care.
He doesn't really care, but I think we also start with this is the point where Dean's just like, are you fucking with me? But that's also the problem with Soulless Sam, right? Because he's like so like not emotionally available, but it's at the point where like I would be fucking with you, so you're just like, wait, can you really not see anybody? Like, are you just busting my balls? Or can you not? Right. And he's just like, I don't know. And like, so he's like, am I being gaslit? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's a lot. So we cut to Sam walking out of the library, and he's like, everyone on the planet believes in UFOs and won't stop writing books about it. While Dean is scrolling through blogs about UFOs at the motel, which sounds terrible, by the way. And we've got David Bowie's Space Oddity starts playing in the motel room. And the motel lights start to flicker. And then there's a bright light outside the window, and the door flies open, and an orb flies in. What? So orbs, in a lot of people that are like into phenomenon, are typically more associated with ghosty stuff as opposed to other lore. But that's okay. In this case, it's not. It's very Tinkerbell. Very Tinkerbell. And so we have this orb fly in the room, and Dean's like trying to look at it, but he's also trying to get his guns, and the orb stops him. And then the orb hits him in the face. It bops him in the face. Boop. And then they have a fight. He's fighting the orb. It's very weird. Then, but Dean is able to trap it in the microwave.
But before he traps it in the microwave, he stops and he says, nipples?
He does.
And then he says, bitch! And then he traps her in the microwave.
And turns it on.
And come at me, PETA, but I once microwaved a scorpion because, like, this house was not a great house to grow up in, but there's also a lot of scorpions here. And after you kill a bunch of them, sometimes you throw them in a microwave. They did not do this. They just died. But this is pretty explosive.
It explodes the whole inside of the microwave. And yeah, Dean is very proud of himself. He gives a little ha-ha, and then you hear the microwave ding. Oh, so Sam's back, and Dean's trying to show him all this fun stuff in the microwave. And Sam doesn't see a thing. It just looks like a clean microwave to him, which would be very upsetting because the inside of a microwave being gross is a really like annoying. I really hate cleaning out the inside of my microwave. But like, wouldn't that be weird if you couldn't tell if your microwave was? Anyways.
No, that's don't send me to that place. Don't send me to that place, or I'm just like sitting on the floor rocking, going, the microwave is never clean. The microwave is never clean.
But like, anyways, so Dean sees splattered orb guts, and
the black,
tries to
the black. I like that it's described as the black.
The black. And he's trying to explain that it was a little naked lady, glowing and hot with nipples, and
glowing,
she hit me.
Hot naked lady with nipples.
She hit me. And Sam's response is, I'm not supposed to laugh, right?
But also, Sam, I'm here for you, because I also, like, one, I would laugh in awkward situations, but we're not. But no, Sam, you're not. But he's also like, what? She had wings.
Yeah. So they've figured out that maybe the encounters weren't extraterrestrials. Maybe they were ultra-terrestrials. Fairies! And that lady from the beginning of the episode was right. What
crazy crystal lady was yammering about. But you know, they are not the first to make this connection.
Oh.
So now we're going to hear my theory, my hypothesis, my thing that I stole from the internet that says, are fairies and aliens the same thing?
Are we calling this lore?
Sure.
That's lore.
So this is Liz's and the internet's hypothesis. So aliens and UFOs are the same. So why are they the same? Okay, one, they can both drive you crazy. For example, in fairy lore, the Leonon she, that first, I'm sorry, people in Ireland, Leonon, but the she, right? Which is, if you look at the word she, like, this is how I know my fairy shit. So that's SIDHE, like, so, but that's actually pronounced she, like a female, but that's not how it's spelled. So anyways, AKA, she's also called the fairy lover, and she comes to men as a muse, but then she drives the artist mad with their need for her. And W.B. Yeats described the spirit as almost vampiric and just absorb the life force. So fairies drive you crazy, and so do aliens, right? Because, just go tell people about the fact that aliens abducted you. Just go try it. See what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Second, they are little people, right? They're both little. I mean, like little fairies, little aliens. In The Secret Commonwealth of Fairies of 1692, the Reverend Robert Kirk described fairies as light, changeable bodies, somewhat of the nature of a condensed cloud, and best seen as twilight. And come on, like, everybody knows that fairies are small, right?
Yeah.
And also, in addition to being small, in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, they're talking about hobgoblins, which are also fairies, and they were said to have like no separate toes or fingers, and they had a hole instead of a nose, which I'm pretty sure like that sounds like an alien, right? That sounds like a gray, right? Totally.
Yeah.
And then, so, like, the conversely, like, for the alien side, in New Mexico in 1964, there was a police officer named Lonnie Zamora, and he saw two small adults dressed in white who disappeared into a large egg-shaped object. So, like, that was an alien, but totally could have been a fairy, right? Also, in France in 1954, where they were having quite the flap, the French were seeing, like, I'm going to use their word, not mine.
Quite the flap.
Quite
the flap.
It was quite the flap. Ooh la la. Oh, the flap.
Oh, the flap.
The flaps. And they call them the dwarves, or other words that in French sound way worse than they do in English. Like, so we're just not going to talk about what they call little people in France. All right. So third reason, time slips. All right, so you saw this like in this episode, right, where Sam got very excited that Dean was having a time slip. Well, the same thing happens like in fairy lore, right? So if you go to the fairyland, like you think it's a couple of hours, but really it's been like years.
A year.
And if you saw that season of True Blood, you exactly know what I'm talking about, or just in general fairy lore, but also that season of True Blood. All right, number 4, crop circles and dirt mounds. So in Ireland, like the remains of stone circles, other prehistoric dwellings are known as the fairy hills or fairy forts.
Ooh, fairy fort. I like
Sounds a lot like fairy farts.
it.
It does, right? So, but the she, the people, like the she actually means like fairy mound, right? So people, the fairy mound. And so, oh my God, Diana has frozen in the most ridiculous picture ever. Oh, she looks really absolutely insane. And I'm going to screenshot this.
Or is it me?
Okay. All right, so another reason that they're the same, crop circles, dirt mounds. So in Ireland, if you see like anything that like you think of like Stonehenge, like so there's a lot of stone circles like everywhere all over Great Britain. They're everywhere, seriously. They're all really cool. But in Ireland, they're known as fairy hills or fairy forts.
Fairy fort.
Forts. So those are all over there, right? So that's well known. But so obviously we talked about crop circles in this episode, in the very famous Zamora incident of 1964. Like there was a whole bunch of like shrubbery that was like set on fire and sand that was fused together. Argentina in 1968 had a bunch of crop circles, and then afterwards there was mushrooms growing there. So just like a fairy circle, like everybody knows about the fairy circle. If you're in like you see like
circle of mushrooms,
that's what the fairies are.
Fairy circle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So also lights. So fairy lights. I mean, do I need to explain fairy lights, right? But with aliens in 2001 in New Jersey, like it was right after midnight, folks saw like orange and yellow lights flying in a V formation over the Arthur Kill Waterway. Also in Stephenville, Texas, where everyone says like it's known for its dairy farms. I'm like, no, motherfucker, it's known for its bull riders. But anyways, so in 2008, there was a ton of white lights that flew over Highway 67. Not white knights, not like Ku Klux Klan members or anything. White lights is what I said. Yeah. So those were like flying over, and they were in like a horizontal arc, and then there was a bunch of parallel lines. There was a pilot that said they spanned about a mile long and a half a mile wide. And they were traveling like around 3,000 miles per hour without making a sound. Like there was no sound. There was just like these crazy lights over Stephenville. Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like Marfa.
It is a lot. There's a lot of weird shit that flies over Texas, just saying, or over the world in general. And so,
right.
Yeah. And this goes to my final point about why, one, aliens are real, and two, that they're fairies. Both of them like to abduct people. Hello, like,
That's
true. We know
a lot of fairy lore is about abducting babies or baby swapping.
We did a whole thing on the show about changelings. Like, yeah, we've already talked about that. And then, like,
I'm reading another book where there's changelings in it. I'm reading a book series right now which has nothing to do with any of this, and there's changelings in it.
Yeah, and so like, but aliens, like, come on, how many abduction stories? Like, their probing table is a thing we all understand. Like, we shouldn't be able to understand what a probing table is, but we all know. We say aliens, what do you think of? You think of probing. That's what you think of. I know. I mean, I want to say, like, you may think of, like, oh, no, thank you, alien overlords. That's also true. Thank you, my alien overlords. We worship you and the robot. Like, whatever my overlords are today was fine. We're flexible.
Right.
But so, anyway, in conclusion, aliens are fairies. Fairies are aliens. Ipso facto. The end. All right. Well, there's one more thing on this lore though, because we're gonna cut the second half of this lore bit, because we're cutting from Dean and Sam in their motel room with the Blick to Marion.
Oh, yeah. To Marion, who's the older woman from the beginning, who said it was fairies from the start.
And she did. And she lists some names. So she says there's fairies, there's sprites and spriggans. There's Bogarts and brownies. The little people have many names. So other names she could have said. All right. She could have said hobgoblin. Oh my God. All right, we're going to do it again. Other names she could have said: hobgoblins, Redcap, so known because he likes to dip his hat in the blood of his victims. Errol King, who is the elf king, duh. The Dierdug, who is basically a fairy vampire. The Queerhon Nook, who is the mother of demons and St. Patrick's enemy. There is the Banshee, the Bean Nagi, which is a washerwoman laundress, a type of banshee. There is the Kelpies and the Nokolavi, a cousin to the Kelpies. The Nokolavi seems to be, they just, like, I missed, like, that cut and paste, but I know they're a horrible horse-like thing that has a lot of things, okay? There is also the Dullahan, which is an Irish demonic fairy, which is basically a headless horseman with the whip made of a human spine. What? And the whole reason that I wanted to say this list, because the other fairy that she could have not said, she could have said the Fockin Pegleg Jack. So the Fockin Pegleg Jack, the Fockin Pegleg Jack, Fachan, otherwise known as Pegleg Jack, is a terrifying fairy with one leg, one eye, one arm sprouting from its chest, and a mane of black feathers. And it's so scary that if you see it, you have a heart attack. But also, his name is Fockin. And if you haven't,
I would be upset if I saw that.
Yeah, and if you haven't figured out, fairies are from all over. There are fairies and, like, depending on almost every culture, everything. But majority of things we talk about do come from our Celtic lore. So lots of Ireland, lots of Scotland, Wales, etc. But also, can you imagine anyone with any sort of Gaelic accent saying "fucking"? The faking pig like Jack, like, it just, so good. The faking like the faking pig leg, like all of it's so good. No matter, like, if you can go Welsh, you can go Scottish. Faking. So Marianne, she lost. Okay, so we're gonna cut to this house and Dean, who is now scared of statues.
Yeah, as she's talking about all the magical, mischievous beings from the realm next door. And basically she's saying that it's like another reality, and only those who went there in return can see anything from the fairy world here. Oh. And he's like, but why are they abducting people? And she's like, well, I don't really have any proof. But they only take firstborn sons, kind of like Rumpelstiltskin, and I think they're taken to service Oberon, the king of the fairies.
In Avalon. So she's also dropping, like, mad fairy names here, and so I'm like, are you trying to establish some creds or something? Like, I think, Marianne, they dig you. Like, they kind of know you're here. Like, you don't need to name drop like this.
But this opens the door for Sam to ask Dean if he serviced Oberon.
He doesn't answer. I don't know.
He doesn't. I think he gave us a pretty good account that he was fighting the whole time. So anyways, so he is like, well, if I wanted to interact forcefully again with fairies, how would I do that? Basically, he wants to know how to trap fairies.
Yeah. And she's like, they love cream. And I'm like, shit, am I a fairy? I love cream.
I love cream too. So I put out a bowl of fresh cream. And they hate iron. And dark fairies burn when they touch silver. But if you spill sugar or salt, they have to stop everything they're doing and count every single grain. That sounds like the worst attribute you could possibly have.
But I also want to know, does this work with stevia or equal? Like, is it like...
I don't think so. I bet it's a pure mineral.
Would Mrs. Dash work? So you're thinking, like, has to be, like, mineral based. But, like, what if, like,
my truffle salt would work because it's still salt. But Mrs. Dash has salt in it. They would probably only count the salt grains in the
But a stevia would be no go. So equal, like they could just like walk on by, or sweet and low, just like whatever.
What about powdered sugar?
What about cocaine?
Meth.
Well, I mean, that's definitely a crystal. Hey, so like that fairy is doing nothing but counting like the meth crystals over and over again. Oh my god, this is okay. Netflix, pay us.
Meth fairies.
Meth fairies.
Oh
Okay.
my god. All right. So, anyways, so they're like, cool. Y'all finish your tea out of your tiny cups, and then they're gonna go figure it out. But Dean is just creeped out by this whole thing. He feels like he has the crazy on him. But Sam's like, no, you just sat in some glitter.
Yeah, that's never coming off. That glitter will be on your pants forever. But then
Dean would rather believe in UFOs.
You don't. Dean's covered in glitter anyways. He's been to way too many strip clubs.
Fair. So Dean would rather believe in UFOs, but then they see Mr. Brennan loading crates of cream into his car. Oh, that's a little sus after what they just learned.
A little bit. Or he just also, like me, loves cream.
That's a lot of cream. So they follow him to his shop and they watch him load the cream in. So then they go break into the store like you do. So Dean's sneaking around the back with a knife and he hears a noise and sees a little man. And by little man, I do not mean a little person. I mean a
tiny man.
Like a tiny man, like under like a foot tall. I don't know, like a little tiny person. A non-regular human person.
An alien.
Working on a watch. And he's looking around. There's a bunch of them. There's like 4 or 5 of them, four of them, I think total, working on watches and drinking cream.
And they all have clothes on.
What the fuck?
And I don't see their nipples. Like, why did the chick have nipples out? What the
there's
fuck?
There's
no male nipple.
Little male critters, yeah. And so Dean goes outside and calls Sam. Guess where Sam is? Sam's at the bar, following Mr. Brennan around. And
that's what Dean told him to do.
Which is what he told him to do, but he's drinking again. And so now they're like, I wonder if Mr. Brennan made a deal with the fairies. So Sam's like, fuck it, I'm going to find out instead of waiting. So he just goes straight up to him. It's like, yeah, goes straight to, talking about, tries to flatter him at first about watches and then goes on to like the ones a bunch of elves made for him. So he calls him out right away for having elves make the watches for him.
Yeah, straight up, like, did you make slaves out of a bunch of little tiny men from another realm? Did you decide to go all colonizer on us? And
Mr. Brennan's pretty freaked out. So Sam goes in for the jugular and says, yeah, how does a father trade his son for a bunch of watches?
No.
Ooh, harsh. But he gets what he finds. He gets what he needs. Because Mr. Brennan goes, it wasn't like that. Which means it was.
It was. And sometimes it's just better if you just fucking ask. Like, stop beating around the bush. Just be like, did you make a bunch of elf slaves? That's not cool, Mr. Brennan.
Walking down the street. And he sees the guy that he saw watching him from the window earlier. The guy from Seattle was watching him earlier. Is watching him again from across the street and starts mirroring him as he walks and then following him. Which is great.
That's obnoxious. Yeah, that's just gross. Also, just like a lot of the people in Seattle. So,
yeah. So Sam is finally getting Mr. Brennan to explain what the fuck happened. And he's like, look, I've got a lot of pressure to, this shop has been in my family for generations. It supports the family and it wasn't doing very well. So my grandmother had always told me that fairies were real and she had a book that told me how to call them. So I did the ceremony 2 months ago. Met this leprechaun and he's like, he was going to help me cure my hand because I have Parkinson's and that's why I was having trouble and my hand hurts.
I couldn't
so I just really wanted my hand cured. And he wants his hand cured, but instead this leprechaun's like, no, I'll just promise to make you more successful than you were before. Anyways, don't worry about it. I'll bring a crew.
Never take the upsell.
And that's it.
Yeah, you had an ask, and then he was like, do you want an upsell? And you're like, yeah, okay, this sounds better. Yeah. Like, no, there's always going to be some deal. You're getting locked into a timeshare here, man. And you should just know better. And he didn't
realize that the trade-off was his firstborn son.
Because that's the fat of the land. I mean, I guess you are in America, so the fat of the land would be your firstborn son. And for once, like, I feel like as a woman, I'm getting the better end of this deal, and I don't feel that bad. So... we're safe. right? I mean, like, they're just
So,
taking the
yeah.
dudes.
Yeah. So, but he realizes it's not just his son, it's others too, and it's just not going to stop. So they need to do the reverse spell.
I guess
But the
fine.
book is in the safe in the shop, and the elves won't let him near the safe.
Oh,
So, anyways, so our weird dude from Seattle is still following Dean down the street and through an alley. And Dean tries to do a sneak attack on him because Dean thinks he's slick. But instead, he does tackle a person when they come around the corner. And this is a little person.
An actual little person.
Yes. Who is a man and is trying to grapple with this man that he believes was the guy following him. It's not. Calling him a fairy because he believed that guy, the Seattle dude, was a fairy. And a crowd forms. And it's definitely not who he thought it was. It is a man whose daughter is calling out to daddy as,
As Dean hits him while yelling, "What do you want, fairy?"
Yeah. And so as he gets up and realizes he has the wrong guy, he tries to make a joke about it. But yeah. So we have Sam trying to call Dean because they're going to help Mr. Brennan get the book to reverse the spell. But they walk up on Dean getting arrested. And Dean just calls out, "Fight the fairies."
And when this episode aired, this actually did trend on Twitter. And
Fight the fairies.
Fight the fairies became a trending topic. And similar to when Lucifer is coming, some people did believe this was a homophobic slur.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Twitter, you're the best.
Yes,
Never mind. All right, so
at the jail, we've got our cop trying to talk to Dean, trying to figure out what kind of hate crime he committed.
Yeah, and technically that's not your job. You're the sheriff. You're not the
Correct.
DA.
That would be a
but
DA.
apparently the DA was the person that
the
Dean
guy
was hitting. Oops.
Which, yeah. So they leave him in the cell and walk away. So Sam and Mr. Brennan are now sneaking into the watch office. And apparently we learn now that not only do fairies love cream, but it gets them real drunk.
Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, they're all drunk or passed out all over the place. And so they sneak to the safe and they open it, they grab the book, and Mr. Brennan starts reading the spell while Sam stands by with a shotgun. But remember,
and this spell is in Gaelic, which so at this point is actually not that surprising if you're thinking about like Brennan, his son was named Patrick. His grandmother had a spirit had a spell to capture leprechauns. Oh, Gaelic
checks out.
Yeah.
So we've got then something stabs Mr. Brennan in the chest from behind.
Mr. Brennan, you should have enslaved elves. That's kind of what you get.
I don't feel like he enslaved them.
I mean, like, someone's like, would you? I don't know. He bought the timeshare. Don't suffer the timeshare. So, I mean, maybe he should have been stabbed.
So, Mr. Brennan's dead, and it was Wayne, the UFO dude, is actually a leprechaun. What? And Sam can see him. And Wayne kind of apologizes, but he's like, yeah, he also went back on our deal. So, and Sam's like, yeah, you weren't clear on the terms, so how you can't really be mad at him for going back on the deal. And Wayne's defensive, like, oh, I told him there was a price. And like Sam's like, yeah, firstborns, and then but he also compliments him on the UFO crap for a cover. It's pretty fun. So he's like, yeah, by the way, your brother is marked and he's ours now. And the only way you can see me is
I don't really understand what this marked thing is.
Because he got abducted.
I know, but it's dumb. It's like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like,
no, it's kind of forced. And Sam can only see Wayne because Wayne lets him see him. Not like the rest of them. So anyway, so he's just talking about basically like they want to, he can get Sam's soul back, and does he want to make a deal with him? Because
you're
missing. I can tell you're missing your soul, but fairy folk are about we can tell the energy, and that it's just very odd.
So rando, and maybe this is the end, but it's just like he's like, well, I'm not part of your mythology, right? I'm not part of your Judeo-Christian, so I can go to hell and get. But how do you go there if you're not part? So why is
because
this?
It wouldn't exist to you then,
I
right?
don't. Okay. I'm going to clap if I believe. Clap if I believe. Okay, so Sam's just like, you can go to hell.
No. And he's like, and Sam does make a crack to him about being my blue fairy to make me a real boy.
We did have a ton of tons of Pinocchio
That was a
references.
great callback there, so it was good. And Wayne replies with, "When you wish upon a star." Oh, I appreciate it. But Sam replies finally, he's like, "Yeah, I got a wish." And he shoots Wayne with a shotgun. Ooh, Wayne's hurt, but he's not dead. Unfortunately. And he disappears as Sam shoots again. And as this is happening at the jail, Seattle dude shows up in Dean's cell and they start fighting. So we get a lot of back and forth. We got Dean and Seattle fighting in this jail cell while Sam is fighting with Wayne. And Wayne beats the shit out of Sam with his stick that he's carrying.
Just like bam, bam. And just like I kind of like Wayne. Like I appreciate and there's been in a couple of other I think in Charmed it is too, just like with leprechauns, where just beat the shit out of people with their sticks. And I'm just okay, maybe I appreciate that because they're my people. I don't know, but I appreciate a good shillelagh. That's what it's called, right? Shillelagh?
Well, I think so. That sounds right. And then Sam is kind of fucked, but and Wayne calls him out for it. Fuck. And Wayne calls him out, but then Sam's like, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" And pours salt all over the floor. And while Wayne is distracted counting the grains of salt, Sam can read the spell. And
so the translation is basically, at least this is according to the Supernatural Wiki, whether or not this is actually the translation of the Scottish Gaelic. Fuck if I know. Fick if I know. All right, so let go of that binding and blow out that light and banish the fairies back to their birthplace. Keep the unborn children safe and keep this terrible gate shut. Huh. So, pro-life Gaelic people. Anyway, and the fairy that was about to stomp Dean's face disappears.
Gets zapped away. And Wayne gets zapped away. And all the others get zapped away.
Just poof, but they're gone.
That's it. And so we find our Winchester brothers parked on a country road, a single lane country road. They stop the car in the middle of it because that's what you do.
Why are you're just getting in my way, motherfucker? It's bad enough I'm going to have to get out of the way for cows. Ugh. Now I have to wait for you motherfuckers.
So annoying. It's the middle of the day and Sam turns down a beer, which is weird. So Dean toasts to the DA dropping charges against him. And Dean asks Sam about what Wayne offered to get the soul. And Sam's like, no, whatever deal wouldn't have been good. No matter what. I know that.
It's a deal. A deal's a deal, man.
A deal is bad. It wouldn't have been a good deal. And so Dean's just trying to figure it out, though, because he's afraid that Sam's having second thoughts about going to get his soul.
And I love that when he asks him, he's just like, "Are you having second thoughts?" And pretty much just like, "No, of course not. Look over there."
Yeah, he definitely is.
What?
Definitely having second thoughts. So there's our episode.
Yeah, so I think we have we can digest that, but first, do people need to go into a casting couch?
They do.
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
Whitaker Jr. is played by Robert Picardo. He was Eddie in The Howling in 1981, Joe in Oh God, You Devil with George Burns in 1984. He's just got a prolific career, so I'm going to hit just a lot of the roles that he's been in. So, Star Killer in The Explorers, Meg in Legend, Giorgio in Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School, Mark in 976 Evil, a garbage man in The Burbs, the voice of Johnny Cab in Total Recall, the original version, Howard the theater manager in Matinee, Ben Wheeler in Wagons East with John Candy, Admiral Calvin in Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus, Dr. Robert Stadler in Atlas Shrugged 2, and Rabbi in Hail Caesar, plus a gazillion episodes of television, single episodes, but a few recurring regular roles were Coach Cutlip in The Wonder Years, Dr. Louis Zimmerman in Star Trek Voyager, which carried over some of their Star Trek stuff too, and Richard Woolsey in Stargate SG-1.
That's a lot.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty big role. I mean,
and that's a pared down list, I'm just saying. Just as a quick hit, a couple of other mentions, this is not that they're not all important. It's just that was a really lot of stuff, and he's kind of a big deal. Mr. Brennan was played by Lyndon Banks, done a ton of TV single episodes, including X-Men, X-Files, and one episode of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina for shows that we will follow. He's in one other episode of Supernatural, and played Eldridge Sump in Jim Henson's Turkey Hollow in the 2015 TV movie. Marion, our beloved fairy believer, is played by Trish Allen. She was Katie in the movie Shooter, the Wahlberg movie in 2007, and a handful of TV shows, but did not have extensive credits. Sparrow Jennings, our hippie chick, was played by Devin Weigel. She was the volleyball girl in John Tucker Must Die, and has been consistently the character of Vicky in the live action Fairly Odd Parents movies, which are from a takeoff from a Nickelodeon cartoon, and played was it an ongoing show called When the Heart Calls. She was Viola Thatcher. Patrick Brennan, our dude who disappeared at the beginning, was played by Joel Seminod, and he was in a lot of single episode stuff, but not massive credits either. But some of the shows you may have seen him on include Lucifer in The Flash, and then Kim, who is his girlfriend, was played by Mackenzie Porter. Interestingly, she seems to have a music career, lots of music videos with her own music. Also played Marcy Wharton in The Travelers, or in TV show Travelers, and Naomi Bohannon in Hell on Wheels, which is a series I was really into.
Huzzah! So a lot.
Yeah.
So much.
It was a lot. A lot. So yeah, I would go back to talk about this episode. Not a bummer. Super into it. Super fucking fun.
Yeah.
A couple little flubs of I can't say suspension of belief because this series is that, but okay, can we at least get our stories to line up a little bit, the consistency, like you were talking about, that doesn't really make sense, all of a sudden the leprechaun can go to hell, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there are some things I feel like, and I'm so naked without my books, and hopefully I will get to go. I will say that also, I did get to have some fun times this week because my weirdness does a lot come from my mom, and so, or at least my interest in things that, even though she's raised a very good Catholic woman, she does have some, there's some side interests. So I went, "Hey Mom, are there any books on fairies here?" And she said, "Of course there are books on fairies here." That's awesome. And including the original book on fairies and elves from the Time Life series. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know how much this Time Life series is here, but that's definitely part of my inheritance, and I'm just gonna slowly start taking these books out and just be like, what? I don't know what that book went, but so she has some fun books on fairies here that I did enjoy getting to read. But the Seattle guy, they never said what type of fairy he was.
Nope. And
that annoys the fuck out of me. I want to know what I don't understand what he was.
And was he like a hitman because Dean got away? Like, I don't really know. He was
I
just
don't
fucking with him.
know. And so, like, this is where I'm
And like, they should be stoked if he got arrested. Like, who cares?
I'm like, is this in my supernatural companion books that I don't have with me? Like, I don't understand where. I don't get it. But beyond that, so there is like those things. I just think it was so well written and just enjoyable and
super fun.
Soulless Sam is hot. He's so emotionally unavailable and just wants to go bang. Yeah, that works for me. Shockingly, I know. Diana is so surprised right now that Sam has all of a sudden become my type now when he doesn't want to talk about his feelings. But, for Dean, I mean, this is, so we have this very weird juxtaposition of where Dean is the one with the feelings now.
No, that isn't interesting. And you were talking about a little bit about that earlier, and I obviously I had observed it, but I think that really drove it home. I'm like, oh wow, they have kind of flipped.
Yeah, but even then, like, you have Dean who's not equipped to talk about his feelings, but he knows he's having them, and now he's having to talk about them with someone who, like, it's they covered a lot of ground in a very fun way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But also, like, so what are your thoughts on, I mean, so we've got, obviously we're setting ourselves up for things here, right? So we've got...
So Sam's going to be wishy-washy about his soul, is what I know.
Yeah. But, I mean, do you think he should get it back? He's going to either be directly
wishy-washy? Yes, I think he should get it back. Obviously.
Okay.
But I think that I don't know if he's going to be directly wishy-washy. I think he's just going to kind of skirt it and avoid it until Dean calls him out again.
Well, I mean, if you don't have a soul, why would you want one? If somebody told me, I mean, and this maybe goes to Diana's freaky AI, why she hates AI, but
yeah.
But basically, it gets alluded to in here where Sam says, so having a soul is suffering. So feeling means that you feel pain. And it does seem like this Sam, like, this is maybe where some of the writing goes awry, like, he has enjoyment. Like, he enjoys watching Dean get fucked with. Like, it may be a just shallow enjoyment, but he still has it.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that you can have that, but you can't have joy, which is different than a superficial enjoyment, without it's like dark. It's like the dark. You can't have dark without light. You can't have, you know what I mean? You've got to have, how do you?
But if you don't know what you're missing, like he says,
but he kind of does.
But he does it. You can't, like,
but you can't feel it.
You can't feel it, right? So why would you, like, if you told me, like, or just like a computer, like, you put that in the choice, it was like, you could have this thing that you don't know, or you could experience something but even then, how do you know what suffering is? Oh, so deep. How do you know what suffering is if you don't know what joy is? Oh no, you feel nothing. Oh, it's so good. Nothing.
It's like experiences and joy are like my part of what my career are based on. So it's kind of hard for me to process that. Because live music is about a shared experience and the feelings and the joy that one experiences in a joint setting, and how the importance of that experience. And I don't know, it's like, that's something I'm very passionate about. Damn.
That's how, it's just the fact that you went very deep. You went very deep from Liz's, like, Soulless Sam is hot, and you're like,
no, but like, well, no, but like from the, a little bit, but like I think Dean does a terrible job explaining the difference in having a soul, because he only talks about suffering. That's a very, very shitty way to sell this deal. But Liz got really excited about not having a soul, and I got upset and had to go super passionate for a minute.
I think this is more a concern that Diana is concerned that Liz doesn't want to feel feelings. Because why? Feelings are for suckers. And they just go down.
You and Sam should write a story about it.
No, then it goes.
Liz and Sola Sam fanfic coming up.
We go on an adventure and we go see. So we would go see the baby sloths at the San Antonio Zoo, because if I didn't have a soul, that's what I'd be doing tomorrow. I would say, "Fuck you, work. I'm going to go see baby sloths."
Oh, that checks out.
And in case that does happen, I'm coming down with something. All right.
Terrible.
All right. On that note, we're veering off topic as we do, so I think it's time to cheers, jerk.
And cheers, bitch.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Get It production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.